Hello and welcome to this Game Pit Stop for Legendary World War Hulk, the expansion from Marvel Legendary, the deck building game. Now this pit stop might be a few minutes longer than you're used to if you watched any more pit stops previously, because I'm going to be going through quite a few of the cards that come in this expansion, probably just out of excitement. As with all Legendary expansions, you're going to be getting some heroes you can play with. And there are certain characteristics which flow through this expansion. So, let's start with Amadeus Cho. Lets you draw cards, but if you draw lots of cards this turn, it's going to let you transform. And transforming is a new mechanic to this expansion. It's going to let you change cards from this card, for example, Gamma Draining Nanites, into, when you transform it, you put this card into play. It's like Totally Smart Hulk. And that's going to get you some fighting power, but also more fighting power if you outwit, another of the new mechanisms. And to outwit, you simply have to have 3 cards of different values in your hand out of all the cards you can play this turn. Now, the reason Amadeus Cho is so focused on outwitting is because his big one, Visualize the Variables. Whenever you outwit, you get to use it again, and also it's got its own outwit power, which lets you look at the top card of your deck and choose whether you want to KO that or not. Now, a lot of those themes are going to run through lots of the heroes which you're going to find in this expansion. The next one is Bruce Banner. With Gamma Bomb Disaster, if you outwit, this one transforms again into the Savage Hulk Unleashed. And this introduces another new mechanism, that's Smash. Now, with Smash, you take the top any card from your hand, and if you choose to discard that card, you get as many fights as is next to here. So this Smash 4 can be quite handy if you're looking to beat things up. With his big card, you get a Gamma Ray Experiment, and this is another thing that comes through. When you outwit, it lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, draw one of them, KO one of them, and put one back. And again, that's another mechanism you'll see repeated throughout cards, both villains and heroes in this set. Kaera, Hulk's wife at one time. When you outwit with her, you can KO a card from your hand or discard pile. Now, when there are at least 3 heroes per player in the KO pile, you get to have a Dutiful Protector, which doubles your stars. This is her big card, but once you transform it, it becomes the Vengeful Destructor. And that one lets you double the fights you have this turn. So she's looking to KO cards, increase them in the KO pile overall, and then she can become very much more powerful in fighting than in buying, which is how she starts. Gladiator Hulk is the next hero, drawing a card and then smashing again to cause power. The green scar causes the cross-dimensional Hulk Rampage. If you remember from other expansions, a cross-dimensional Rampage is going to give you wounds unless you have a card related to it. In this case, it's a Hulk card. Obviously, this set is going to give you loads more Hulk cards to prevent you being able to do this. Depends what your setup is. If any player gains a wound this way, you get Wounded Fury. And Wounded Fury adds to your fight for every wound that you have in your own discard pile. So, as with Hulk in the base set, lots of these cards will want you to actually get wounded, but then give you ways possibly to mitigate that. When it's a double-fisted smashing, you get double your smashes from each smash you have this turn, so double the fights. So the smash back here and the smash on there itself, and you can get quite powerful combos going on there from all your smashes with Gladiator Hulk. The next one is Hirurim, the priest from this storyline. That you can KO a 0-cost card as long as you played one of the teammates here. And when you KO a wound, you get to rescue a bystander. Also, first time you defeat a villain, if you played another covert card, you get to rescue a bystander. If there are at least 2 bystanders in your victory pile, you can transform Saved from the Rubble into Hirurim Redeemed. And that only has 1 fight, but it gets you +1 fight for every 2 bystanders in your victory pile. So you can see where we're going with those cards. Next one is Hulkbuster Iron Man. Now, Hulkbuster is all about comboing tech cards and melee cards, and also comboing the 2 things. For example, this with an outwit will give you a smash. If you've played both, you get to change Build the Suit into Ultra Massive Armor, which I'm guessing is pretty big if it's Ultra Massive. Ultra Massive Armor lets you draw cards and smash again. And with the Final Battle, the big card, you get +2 fights for every technology and or melee card you play this turn. So you can see you're trying to build special combos of technology, and smashing in there makes sense for Iron Man. Joe Fixit the Grey Hulk. Now, he plays slightly differently. Threaten and Bribe means that you can spend any combination of stars and fights to fight this turn. So in effect, he gives villains the bribe keyword without them actually having bribe keyword printed on them. When the Hulk runs this town, again, you can spend any combination of stars and fights, but this time only to fight the Mastermind, but it gives you 4. When you transform him into the Underworld boss, You can choose a villain in your victory pile and you get plus fights equal to the VP printed on that villain. So he's all about mixing things around and changing it up. Korg is in here as well, and nothing beats Rock. Draw cards and smash. If you smash wounds, you get to KO it rather than just discard it. And his big card is the Cronin Tactician. You put all the cards on the HQ back at the bottom of the hero deck, and you get all their printed fights put together there for one big fighting combination. His mate Meek is also in here. Now Meek is all about feasting. Feast came in the Carnage expansion, I believe. In this case, it lets you look at the top card of your deck and put it back on the top or bottom. In this case, if you've played another Instincts card, you may feast, and feasting lets you KO the top card of your deck. But you get to look a lot of the times when you're using Meek. Whenever a card is carried from your deck this turn, you may draw a card. His endless appetite as well as giving you fights. So they obviously combo up together. There's a metamorphosis here. You may feast. If you feast on a card that has got a fight icon from this, then you can transform this into Hive King Meek. And here we go again. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order, then you may feast. So he's all about cycling through your deck, choosing what to get rid of, burning them up, and then attacking in numbers. Nomura is also in play. You'll get +1 fight with this, gives you 2 anyway, but only against villains in the sewers or the bridge. Now that might not be that handy, but you've got Turning the Tide. If the bridge is empty, you can move any villain there, and you take away 3 from their strength. You've got Herculean effort here. If you defeat a villain again in the sewers of the bridge, you can transform this into Master of the Depths, and it goes immediately back on top of your deck. And that's going to let you smash, and if you smash to do the 3 damage on here, and it's a 0 cost hero, one of those basic ones, you get to KO that hero. So she combos all by herself. They're going into the bridge and the sewers. The next one is the no-name Brood Queen, who I believe got together with Meek at some point. That's nice to think of. You look at the top card of your deck, you can discard it or put it back, and then if you played another covert, you may feast. Slightly similar powers to Meek, themed together there. You may feast, then if it was a non-grey hero you were KO'd, then you can transform this into the Torrent of Broodlings, because she had all those eggs on her that went wrong. And Torrent of Broodlings gives you attacks and also lets you draw a card. That is very handy. And her top one is World Spanning Hunger. You look at the top card of your deck, then you can feast up to 3 times, and for each non-grey hero that you've KO'd that way, then you get to get +2 to her 4 already. So I guess she's all about buying cheap heroes and eating your way through them to power her up. We've got Rick Jones. Now Rick Jones is all about transforming. There are 3 different ways in which you can transform. And the first one, you can transform into Captain Marvel. And also he's looking for more expensive cards here. That was what he's looking for, complete opposite to the no-name Brood Queen over there. When you've got Irradiated Blood, if you've got at least 5 villains in victory pile, this transforms, but not into Captain Marvel, this time into A-Bomb, which has got a smash 5, which is obviously a huge amount of damage. Rick Jones can also get caught in the Kree Skrull War. If you defeat 2 villains this turn, this time Rick Jones transforms into the Destiny Force. And in that case, you can look at your victory pile, look at all the different printed VP values in your victory pile, and you draw that many cards, which could lead to a massive turn. There we go with Rick Jones. Sentry. Now Sentry is an interesting character. Lots of people have forgotten who he is, and he has to bring back their memories, and then it turns out that actually sort of half a supervillain, and that comes through very much in these cards. So it gives you 2 fights, this rival personalities, and +1 fight for each card that transformed this turn, and obviously you can transform a lot. Agoraphobia transforms into the Golden Guardian of Good. When you have Golden Guardian of Good, you can transform back into Agoraphobia, and that'll give you +4 fight. You've got the Mournful Sentinel. If you draw a card on top of your deck, it costs 1 or more, you can put that into the Void Unchained. The Void Unchained being sort of the dark side of this character. With the Void Unchained, if you reel the top card of your deck, if it costs 0, you feast it. Otherwise, you transform back into Mournful Sentinel. When you transform, you get to use the powers anyway, so it will give you 3 fight every time you use it. Now, Sentry's top card is a Vast Unstable Power. You look at the top 5 cards off the hero deck, not your deck. You gain all of their printed fights, which is fantastic. However, if you make 12 or more fights on this, then you actually transform this card into a Mastermind. The Sentry Mastermind comes into play, and now you've got at least 2 to defeat, depending upon the scheme. And the Mastermind Sentry puts wounds into players' decks, and then it cleans out the HQ as one of its tactics. And if you've got any cards that match the cards in the HQ, you've got to discard them as well. And basically, it's all about messing with people's hands. Now, this is a mastermind you can just play as a setup, but the vast unstable power can also bring it into play. So Sentry is a very interesting hero to include. Very powerful, but very unstable, as the name says. Right, we're getting to the end of the heroes. We've got She-Hulk. She-Hulk starts by hurling legal objections and gives you stars, but if you make more than 6 stars, she transforms into hurl trucks rather than legal objections, and that gives you 2 fights and 2 opportunities to smash 2. She also has radioactive riot. She gives you fights, but if you made at least 6 stars on this turn, you can start KOing cards from your hand or discard pile. And Jade Giantess, her big card, gives you 4 stars, and for every 2 stars you made this turn, reveal the top card of your hero deck, put it on the bottom of your deck, and you get, it's the hero deck, not your hero deck, sorry, and you get that card's printed fights, which is, again, we've seen all the way through. There's lots of things where you go through the hero deck or empty the HQ, and all the fights that are on there, you get to use them. The last one of the heroes is Scarce Son of Hulk. If you've played another Instincts card here, you may gain a wound. If you do, transform this into the Raging Savage. Now, the Raging Savage has got the Wounded Fury, which we talked about way back with the Hulk, which gives you plus fights for every wound in your discard pile, and Scar is all about that. Another one with Wounded Fury here. Or the Planetary Level Revenge gives you Wounded Fury. Then you may KO any number of wounds from your hand or discard pile, then draw that many cards. So there we go, all about Wounded Fury and wounds for Scar. The other cards that come, we're not going to go through every single card, but there are some unique bystanders, like the Animal Trainer, which gives you money off certain types of heroes, or the Triage Nurse, that does that thing of letting you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, KO 1, discard 1, and put 1 back. There are obviously schemes in there. For example, in the Gladiator Pits of Sakaar, when a twist comes out, you can only play cards from one team. So you can choose the Avengers, obviously, or you can choose the Warforce, you can choose whichever one you wish to, but you can only play those on this particular turn. And again, that's another mechanism that's going to show up a bit later. We've got World War Hulk itself. Now, you get extra masterminds here, and they're lurking, but they only have 2 tactics. They're easy to defeat. But when Master Strikes come out, or twists come out, they come back into play and they rotate round, and you've got to rotate the whole set before you can win this one. So speaking of masterminds, there's one specific thing about all the masterminds in this set, and that's that they can all transform. Now, General Thunderbolt Ross, you will know if you've been following the comics in the last 10 years, that this guy can transform into the Red Hulk. To start with, he gets a load of helicopters next to him, and they're very easy to defeat. They only cost 2, but you have to defeat all the helicopters before you can attack him as General Ross, and a lot of his tactics will bring more helicopters into play. However, each time there's a Master Strike, he's going to turn over, he's going to do a Hulk Rampage. Red Hulk has got Wounded Fury, so the more wounds you have, the more powerful he is, and obviously he's going to flip back over. Every time he flips back over, there's going to be more helicopters to protect the General. Next is the Illuminati Secret Society. You must outwit them with the 3 different costs of cards in your hand. Otherwise, they're going to be 15 to defeat. They're 11 to start with. Also, when they Master Strike, when they're on this side, they take out 2 cards that cost between 1 and 4 from your hands to thin you out. When they transform, they're very similar. However, this time they're going to do 2 cards that cost between 5 and 8. They're just 13 to defeat straight up, but they're going to attack the better cards in your hand. That's the Illuminati. King Hulk himself can become one of the masterminds. When he's a mastermind, he gets a plus for Warbound villains. That's one of the villains we're going to look at, one of the sets that's come in. So he can become more powerful. Each time there's a Master Strike, you KO a Warbound villain from your victory pile or gain a wound. And then he flips over and becomes King Hulk, the World Breaker. He has Wounded Fury, so again becomes more powerful the more wounds you have, and he's going to KO cards from your hand as well. We've got Modok makes a reappearance. All outwit abilities throughout the whole set now requires 4 different values rather than 3. And when we flip this one over, when you fight on this side, sorry, if you don't outwit Modok, you gain a wound. When you flip it over again, you can only fight them with stars, not with fights this time around. And also with the Master Strike again, if you can't outwit them, then you must KO a non-grey hero from your discard pile. The Red King, the one who started it all off on Planet Hulk. You cannot fight the Red King while there are any villains in the city. So he's difficult to fight, obviously. And he's always looking for technology cards, otherwise he's going to give you wounds. When he flips, then he brings another card out from the villain deck. And that is a theme that runs through, because in his tactics, he's always bringing more villains into the city. They will defend him, and you can't defeat him unless you've defeated all the villains in the city. Now, those are all the masterminds that come in this set, including the Sentry one. The other few bits and bobs, there are 3 new henchmen. Cytoplasm spikes are quite easy to defeat. However, they will feast on you, and if it's a non-grey hero, you get some stars, but it would have eaten one of your cards. The Death's Heads are a bit easier, because if you outwit them, then you can KO one of your cards that costs 0. And you've also got the Sakaran Hivelings. You look at the top card of your deck, put it back on the top or bottom, and then you feast, so it's less random than fighting the Cytoplasm spikes. The villains themselves you're going to be fighting, let's go through them. So we've got the Aspects of the Void. The Infinity Tendrils, they have Wounded Fury as well, so they're going to be attacking you, and they capture bystanders. Another one there is Trap, which came into play in one of the previous sets. And what a trap does when it comes in, it doesn't push villains along in the city, but it gives you something you must do on this turn, otherwise something bad is going to happen to you. So in this case, you play another card for villain tech, you must have defeated a villain by the end of this turn, otherwise you're going to have a Master Strike, which will obviously advance what the masterminds are doing. The next set are Code Red, and they're all about covert cards. For in this case, when you fight Red She-Hulk, if you don't have a covert card, then you're going to gain wound. Also, she's got Wounded Fury, so she's quite happy for you to have wounds. With Thundra, she gets +2 if there are any covert heroes in the HQ, so they all want you to be buying those covert heroes and using them. The Illuminati, as well as being a mastermind, are also a villain group. We've got Doctor Strange and Black Bolt from this set. You must outwit Doctor Strange, or it makes you discard a card. That makes sense. Or for Black Bolt, he's 13 to defeat. However, you must discard a card with no rules text, and every time you do that, he becomes 2 fewer to defeat. Okay. That sounds quite tasty. We've got the Intelligentsia here. We've got the leader. If you can't outwit them, then you must play the top card of the villain deck, and that's on an ambush. They've also got a trap in which you must outwit the trap, or everyone discards down to 4 cards in the Battle of Wits. We've got the Sakaar Imperial Guard that come out with the Red King. With the Headman Char, starts at only 2 to defeat. For every villain in your victory pile, he gets a +1. Going to make him tougher and tougher. Another trap here, the Gladiator Coliseum. It's one of those mechanisms we talked about earlier. You can only play cards from one team on your turn when Gladiator's Coliseum comes out as a trap. We have got the UFOs with Vector and X-Ray. They're just examples. Every single one of the different ones here makes you want to reveal a certain type of hero, otherwise something happens to you. In this case, if you've got an Instincts hero, when Vector's fought, you get to draw a card. If you reveal one of those Tactics ones, then you carry a card from your discard pile. So it's good to have variety when you're playing the UFOs. And the very last cards in the set we'll talk about are the Warbound themselves, Hulk's allies. When you fight Meek the Unhived, you look at the top 2 of your cards at your deck, you put them back in on top or bottom, you choose whichever way you want to do them, and then you feast, so that can be quite handy. Or there's a trap of Warbound Rescue. You put a Warbound villain and a henchman villain with victory pile back into the city, or every player gains a wound, which might be unfortunate. That is a very long overrun, almost 20 minutes of cards that you will get in the World War Hulk expansion for Legendary, the Marvel deck building game. This has been a Game Pit Stop. For more videos of this, check out our YouTube channel, and for more in-depth coverage of gaming, please check out the Game Pit podcast. Thank you.